December Daily is a journaling and memory keeping project in which you journal basically every day for December. I'm only going to be doing it until the 25th of December, which is Christmas Day. And basically, I wanted to create a junk journal for this project, and I've never done any junk journaling before. I've only seen videos about it. My main inspiration for this project is actually Mitz from My Life Mitz, because she did a Christmas junk journal for December Daily, I think in 2016, and I wanted to try it out since I've never done any junk journaling. So this will be a learning process for all of us, but I'm going to show you all the supplies and everything that I'm going to be using for this project, so let's get started. So I'm going to be using 3 different types of paper in this notebook. Number 1, we have vellum, which is this translucent paper. Number 2, we have scrapbook paper. And number 3, we have actual scrap paper. And vellum is going to add some light and airiness to this notebook because the other pieces of paper that I'm going to be using, as you'll see in a few seconds, are a lot more patterned. So as you can see, this wood grain pattern paper is quite busy and it has a lot of dimension, and I think that the vellum will offset that and add another layer of lightness to the notebook. And I got this paper pad at Michael's. This was $12, and I think that's not that bad actually, since you get a lot of paper. And then I got this, I don't want to say tacky, but it is kind of tacky, this tackier Christmas paper. And I mean, not all of them are bad. I really like that plaid pattern and the holly or mistletoe, but some of the other pieces of paper are really just like a little too much for me. Like, you all know my style and the look that I like, and sometimes I go overboard, and yeah, I think if I go too washi crazy and I use those really busy pieces of paper, it's gonna look too much, so I'm gonna stay away from those. And lastly, this is the scrap paper that I'm using. So I cut up a whole bunch of craft paper bags, and some of them are from Traveler's Company, some are from local art stores, and I'm going to incorporate that in the notebook that I create in just a few I almost said minutes and moments at the same time. But in terms of other supplies that I'm going to be using throughout December Daily, I'm going to be using these stamps that I got from Kelly Perky's shop, and I actually love Kelly Perky's videos online on YouTube, and they're really informative, and I really want to try what is it called, Project Life in the future. But anyways, rambling, and I'm out of breath as usual. I really like these stamp sets because they are, why do I like these? I don't know, they're just simple. This one is the Departures stamp set, and that looks like the letters that go on those old school arrivals and departure boards at airports, and that's why I like that. And then to go with that stamp set, I'm going to be using this Brilliance Moonlight White ink, which I used in my last video, and this Recollections acrylic block for all my stamping. And I want to stick to white ink as much as possible because I think it's really unique. But obviously black ink is a go-to ink too, so I'll probably be using that. Oh my gosh, I need to take a deep breath. Oh, I'm speaking way too fast. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna slow down anyways. So this is a We Are Memory Keepers cut and scoreboard. I've talked about this on my channel a lot recently because I've been using it to cut everything. I haven't used scissors in a really long time, but I like it so far. It's not the sharpest blade on a cut board, but it's not bad. And then lastly, I purchased this stapler that actually has a swivel head, so you can use it as a bookbinding stapler. And I actually used to have one of these. I have a blue one, and I gave it to a friend in Korea when I left Korea. And this is a really cheap stapler. I mean, it gets the job done. Like, you can probably bind maybe 6 pages at the most. So I will have to be creating signatures or mini books to create my full junk journal, but I'll talk about that in the later part of this video when I'm actually putting this together. But I have this really cheap Daiso stapler. But let's begin. Okay, so this might get a little technical, but I'll try to talk slowly and explain it, and it'll all make sense in the end. But basically, the width of a regular traveler's notebook insert is 11 centimeters, and when the notebook is open, it is 22 centimeters. So the height of an insert is 21 centimeters. So we need to cut our paper to fit 22 centimeters by 21 centimeters. And you only need 13 sheets of paper, and that will yield basically a 26 page notebook insert. And since I'm only going to do 25 days of journaling for December daily, because I end on December 25th, which is Christmas Day, I only need 25 pages, and that's going to give me one extra page, which is always nice if you end up going over. And although I'm going to have 26 pages in total, I'm getting tongue tied. I'm gonna add more pages, but they're not gonna be the full size as the other pages. So they're not gonna be 22 by 21 centimeters. They're gonna be smaller, and they're just gonna add more dimension to the junk journal and give it that junk journal feel. So a lot of people put envelopes, or I guess like flip up cards, so you can flip up your page to get more space. I'm not gonna go into that territory because I don't need that much space. So we're just gonna keep it simple. We're gonna have 13 pages in the full length and height of an insert, and then we're gonna have extra additional pages which are gonna be in vellum and scrap pieces of craft paper, and those are just gonna add extra layers to our main 26 pages of journaling real estate. Oh my gosh, that didn't make any sense, but you know what I mean. I initially created a cover by pasting two of these pattern papers together to create this extra thick piece of paper, and that's good in theory, but if you cut it to the wrong size, which I did, it doesn't really matter. So I cut that cover to the usual size that I cut all my pieces of paper, so I cut it to 22 by 21, but that's a really bad mistake that I made, because when you assemble your notebook together, it's going to be really thick, and obviously your cover, if you cut it to the same size as the rest of your pieces of paper, it'll be too small because it won't cover all of the pages that you just cut out. So I suggest that you add an extra centimeter or even a centimeter and a half to the dimensions that you're making your journal. So I ended up making the width of my cover 23.5 centimeters, and the height is still 21 centimeters, and that will basically make up for the space that you'll use because of the not the space that you'll lose, well, kind of, because of the thickness of your insert. So make sure to cut your cover to the right size. So you'll see me make that mistake earlier, and I'll end up cutting another piece of paper to the correct size. Once you've cut all your papers to the right size, you can assemble them to the way you want them to look in the journal. And I tried to scatter my pages quite a bit because I realized that these pieces of paper are not double-sided, so I had to take that into account and make sure that there were some spreads that had some pattern paper and some that didn't, because when you fold the pieces of paper together to create your notebook, you'll realize that some pages are not full spreads of pattern paper, so you kind of need to offset a few pages to make every spread have at least some pattern paper. And since my stapler couldn't handle all the sheets of paper, I think in total it was 24 because of all the tiny little accent pieces of paper I added to the journal. It was just too thick, so I made 4 different signatures. Apparently that's the lingo that people use in junk journal making, and it's just a fancy term for minier that's not a word, mini notebooks to create your final notebook. So I made 4 of those, and I used my stapler, and then I assembled them all together by just gluing the back cover and front cover of all 4 together. So that is kind of, it's not the most ideal way to assemble it, but that's all that I had, and I didn't want to bust out a sewing machine because that's just a lot of work, and I didn't want to break my sewing machine or our sewing machine because I don't know if it can handle this much paper. I've never sewn paper before. Can't yet? I'm pretty sure you can sew paper. Anyways, so I just glued all of these inserts together, and I used glue and my tape runner to keep it extra secure. And then I tried using that cover that I cut to size earlier, and as I've said earlier, it's too small, and I tried different ways of folding it, and it was just too small. So I basically made another cover and I cut it to the proper size, which is 23.5 centimeters or even 24 centimeters in width, and then 21 centimeters in terms of its height. And I just use one piece of paper this time. I didn't glue another piece of paper on top of it to make it a thicker cover, because I will be gluing the 4 signatures to this, and since the signatures are pretty thick already, I thought that I wouldn't need to add any more thickness to this notebook. So I just went ahead and used that one piece of paper, and I put a lot of adhesive because I didn't want it to fall off. And I cut it to size. It is a little big, but I rather have that than having it be too small. And I think it looks pretty good. I mean, this is my first time creating any type of junk journal or binding my own book, so I think it turned out pretty great. But I did come across a problem, because this pattern paper, although very thick, it's very brittle for some reason. So when I use my scoreboard, I tend to apply a lot of pressure on it. So when I scored it, I think I scored it way too much, so it added a lot of stress to the paper, and it cracked where I actually scored it. So I used this really thick MT washi with flowers on it, and it fits my my whole look for this junk journal, because it's red, green, and craft or brown, and I just use that to bind the back and to cover that little crack, and it added a little bit more structural integrity in terms of the cover. And then since my cover is a little big, I basically taped some red washi tape over the pieces that were overhanging, because there was some glue adhesive that was exposed. So I just covered that with some red washi, and that's pretty much it. Let's take a look at the finished insert. Okay, so as you can see, the completed insert is pretty thick, and if you compare it to the regular insert that you can get from Midori or Traveler's Company, it's about 50% thicker than those inserts. But that's just the nature of junk journaling. You end up having a really thick insert because you're basically using a whole bunch of scrapbook paper to create one notebook, and then you have smaller accent pieces or accent pages created with vellum and other scrap pieces of paper, and that adds more bulk. And even though this is in a sense a 26-page journal, there are way more pieces of paper because we have those extra smaller pieces of paper, and that adds a lot of bulk to it. So I guess that's just the nature of junk journaling. You end up creating really thick inserts, and I think for my first time creating a junk journal insert, this turned out pretty good. It's not too junky, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't look like a whole pile of junk or scrap pieces of paper put together to make a notebook. It still looks like a nice insert, and on the outside you wouldn't think it's a junk journal because I've used a lot of scrapbook paper, and it's really thick and it adds some structure to the notebook. So I'm pretty happy with it, and I can't wait to use it. But it is really thick, so I'm not going to be using it in my regular Midori that I carry around with me all the time. I'm going to move it to a separate Midori. I'm going to be using my olive Midori for December daily because it's green, and green is very festive in terms of December and Christmas and the holidays. So I'm going to be using my olive Midori for this month-long project. And I guess I should say that I will try to post daily. I don't think it's going to happen because Saturdays and Fridays are always really busy, so I might not post on those days, but I will try my best to have a lot of content in December because December is my favorite month. It's my birthday month, and I love Christmas, and I love the holidays, and I love how everyone's I just love the energy of December. but maybe I'm biased because it's my birthday month. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'll see you probably tomorrow, because yeah, tomorrow, it's December 1st. I can't miss December 1st for the December daily project or challenge. So I'll see you all tomorrow. I'll talk about my prompts and everything that I'll be using tomorrow, because this video is long enough and you've heard me ramble and stumble over my words enough. So I'll see you all next time. Let me say my outro. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with all your stationery obsessed friends. I'll see you all later. Bye.